Hey everybody, I'm Chris with Matador, and I'm here in our prototyping lab in Boulder, Colorado, and today we're going to talk about the Matador Camera Base Layer version 2.0. So this is version 2 of our camera base layer, and we launched the original back maybe 2016, and really we launched this to fill a void that we found from our personal use in adventure photography, where there was no great interim solution between the camera bag and actually taking the photo. So we wanted to fill the gap and still have our camera protected. We needed quick access, we needed waterproof protection, bump and scratch protection, and generally just the ability to carry the camera with us without having a heavy camera case or a big camera bag. So that's kind of the birth of the original product, and this is the updated version designed with honestly a lot of customer feedback over the years, implemented and built to make this an exceptional update to the original product. I'm pretty excited to say that we did a nice job of bringing together everything you guys asked for over the years. A few of those key points. A little onboard storage pouch for lens pockets, lens cloths, or batteries. One really cool thing about this pouch that we designed in, through our own experience, we had realized here in Colorado shooting in the winter, our camera would often die because the battery would get too cold. And we've heard this feedback from you guys as well. And since the base layer is padded with effectively thermal insulation, we saw this as an opportunity to be able to implement a solution that would keep your camera from dying in the cold. So this pocket actually protrudes to the inside of the insulation, and we placed it so that it'll butt up right against the battery compartment of your camera. And you can put a hand warmer in here and actually keep the temperature up for the battery bay of your camera and keep it operating in cold weather. A few other critical features was a more firm attachment point. So we put in a built-in carabiner that lets you attach it to backpack straps or molly on your backpack, or kind of hook it anywhere you want. Could be a belt loop, could be a belt. And then we also incorporated this carry handle. One of the key pieces of feedback we heard is that people who owned the prior version would just leave their camera bag behind. They would choose their lens that they were going to use for their adventure that day. They would set it up and they would go out. And that means that you can take this lightweight solution and chuck it in any backpack. So it could be your hiking pack, it could be your climbing pack, whatever it is. This will keep your camera protected from bump, scratch, and the elements, and you can leave all the extra weight behind. But now you also have this handy carry handle, so you can pull it out easily. You can hand carry when you want, when you don't feel like attaching it to things. The old version had a dry bag that deployed from the bottom, came over the top, and you would roll and buckle to kind of encompass the whole thing in a dry bag. And it was a little bit inconvenient to use. And through some of that user feedback I mentioned before, people wanted a more streamlined experience with the waterproofing. So this version, through a lot of iteration, we found a way to actually build the seam sealed dry bag liner directly into the padded housing. So now, no matter when you're using this, you have the protection of the dry bag liner. Another major difference between the new version and the old version is the way we close the base layer and the way it adjusts to different size cameras. So if you're familiar with the old one, you'll know that the whole thing kind of operated like a roll top bag. So if you put in a camera with a shorter lens, you would just have to roll it more times. So maybe you have a short nifty 50, you might have to roll it 6 or 7 times, and it can be a little tedious. Now you'll just set your version 2 base layer up for that shorter lens using the macro adjustment, where you flip that inside out and then pull the draw cord, and it sets it up for the shorter camera. And then you also have the micro adjustment here that lets you slide this to control how far the lid comes down on the magnetic closure. So really, between the two adjustments, you can dial anything from a pretty large lens down to a pancake lens, make sure it always fits your camera. So if you're familiar with the old version of the camera base layer, you might have noticed it doesn't share much in common with the new version. And that's because we wanted to produce a radically better product experience, so we did a ground up redesign. Some of the things that the old base layer achieved were fantastic, but we didn't necessarily love the way it achieved them. So we started from scratch. And around here, that means a lot of iterative prototyping. So this is part of the pile of the prototypes that we went through to develop the product from version 1 to version 2. We went all the way back to the drawing board and explored totally new concepts for how to adapt to different camera sizes, how to waterproof, how to make this thing easy to remove with one hand. Some of the funny concepts, and remember these are just concept models at this point, like this little stretchy hat that's padded but sewn with stretchy thread. Some of these contracting prototypes that kind of expand and still have hard foam. A lot of interesting magnetic closures, like this guy here, that'll just open and kind of close on its own. But then at some point we start to realize what's working and what's not working, and we bring those together into a more comprehensive prototype. So at that stage, you'll start to see things taking, the vague shape of what it's ultimately going to be. Here you can see part of the macro adjust mechanism coming to life, and that ended up working pretty well, so that made it to the next round and the next prototype. From there we continue to develop the shape and the patterns, but here you can really start to see this camera base layer taking the shape of the final version. And again, these are all sewn in-house until we get to a point where we pretty much have a product that functions exactly the way we want. At that point, we'll typically kick this out to our manufacturing partners, and they'll start generating rounds of samples with our feedback. We start making these on mass production machines using mass production technologies and production fabrics. Those will then come back here and get thoroughly tested and refined. And it's been a long process and a labor of love to get this to this state. So we're really excited about it. I think the team here did an excellent job of implementing the feedback you guys have given us over the years, and we've really produced something special. If you like the camera base layer, you should also check out the laptop base layer, which has a lot of the same features and the same specs, just there to protect your laptop instead of your camera. Again, guys, thanks for your feedback over the years. You've been instrumental in building the brand, instrumental in developing this product, and we're really excited to see the content you bring back from the trips you'll take with this product.